have another look through the papers. With us this morning to do so, editor of Spike, Tom Slater, and Dawn Neeson, the former editor of the Daily Star. Tom and Dawn, hello again to you both. Let's start with something a bit more cheerful than the heat wave. No, not really. The travel chaos. What's this story in is the Telegraph? Tom?
Yes, so this is a story about how essentially more travel chaos for people trying to get their summer holidays off the ground. So airport bosses at Heathrow have urged various carriers to essentially boot a number of people off of flights to allow them to leave. So that is, rather than cancelling whole flights in relation to the staff shortages, particularly in ground staff, just to put a cap on the number of people who are allowed to get on those flights to try and ease some of the congestion. This is something that they've tried before, usually limiting it to about 75 to 80%. But, more bad news for people who, with the restrictions lifting and with us easing ourselves out of the pandemic, we're all looking forward to a good restriction-free summer. But we're seeing all of these consequences of the fact that you really can't just turn the global economy on and off again like a blow heater. It's going to have all of these knock-on impacts, and we're still feeling them even now.
It's so interesting following this row with the airlines and with Heathrow. I don't know if you read Emirates' statement on the situation in Heathrow and that cab. Yeah, Dawn, you've seen it, right? Just a few lines. I don't think I've actually ever read a press statement that is so scathing. This is Emirates about Heathrow and that cab. Ensuring ground readiness to handle and turn around a wide-body, long-haul aircraft with 500 passengers on board. Obviously, they're talking about those huge 380 planes. Yeah, that one. No, that hasn't got 4 engines. But the big one with the 4 engines, the double-decker plane, right? They're saying it's impossible. It's not as simple as finding a parking spot at a mall. And Emirates have been really scathing about Heathrow themselves, saying they chose not to act, not to plan, not to invest, and now faced with an Armageddon situation due to their incompetence and non-action, they're pushing the entire burden to airlines and travellers. Dawn, what do you think? Is this bad planning on Heathrow's part, or is this just a knock-on effect of everything that we've been through in the last 2 years?
I think there's part of both of those involved, but I thought Emirates' statement was incredibly refreshing, Kimberly, because they were being honest. I mean, Emirates during the pandemic obviously ran their business well. So many airlines, British Airways being one, I have to say, didn't. I mean, they made staff redundant, they didn't re-employ them. I mean, we knew that once the pandemic was over and we were allowed to travel again, that this would happen. And every one of us could see it coming, Kimberly. So why couldn't Heathrow? I'm naming Heathrow because that's what we're talking about, but other airports are also suffering. And it's not just in this country, other countries are suffering as well. So why didn't they prepare for this? So I thought Emirates' statement was incredible. We've run our business well. We can fly, we can take off, we can get our passengers where they need to go with their luggage. That's a shock. Why are you not ready for this? Fair play to Emirates and Heathrow really are letting so many people down. And Kimberly, we all need a holiday, and so many families now have been away for 2 years, desperate to get away, ironically for the weather, and they can't, and they're facing all this stress and trauma.
It's interesting, Emirates saying they're just going to carry on flying, so we'll see how that plays out in the next couple of days, couple of weeks. Let's have a look at the Daily Mail. Tom, this is something you've picked out. This row around Penny Mordaunt and her stance on trans rights. What do you think about it? Do you think it really has cut through? Because you ask people, do you think this is what they're worried about? Or is it cost of living top of the agenda for them?
Mm-hmm. Of course it is, but I think the reason that this issue is being focused on is not because it's just cultural war froth, and it's not just because this is kind of black ops against Penny Mordaunt's campaign that she's painted it in some of the other papers this morning. It's because this gets to some fundamental questions, one of which is the question of biological reality. I fundamentally think if you refuse to understand that biological sex is real and it's an important thing, despite the fact that, of course, trans people deserve all the rights and respect in the world, then you really shouldn't be Prime Minister. And the other thing that this gets to is the fact that Penny Mordaunt has been slightly not straightforward with her own position on this issue. So she said trans women are women at the dispatch box. She has been accused of trying to resist using words like women and mother in legislation that was used to allow Suella Braverman to go on maternity leave, and being a supporter of gender self-ID, the idea that you could gain access essentially to many women's spaces and services just by basis of self-declaration. She is saying that people have fundamentally misunderstood her position, that this is a misrepresentation. So you're left with basically two conclusions, neither of which are good. One of which is that she's being dishonest about what it is that she actually believes or believes previously, or that she just goes whichever way the wind is blowing. And I think whilst these issues fundamentally matter to questions of sex-based rights, but they also speak to a question of integrity and truthfulness, and that's why they're not going away. It's not because it's just people trying to stir up a culture when we should be talking about more serious issues.
Now, she of course insists that she hasn't changed her position. Dawn, let's stick with the debate, bring up the Daily Mail. They've got the spread, page 12 and 13 on it. What did you think? Who came up on top? Who came out on bottom? On the bottom, how did they do you think?
Well, it was absolutely fascinating, wasn't it? I mean, the frustrating thing, Kimberly, is that the vast majority of us watching this have no say over who actually wins this race. And only Conservative Party members can actually vote on this, and the vast majority of the population aren't. I think it's about, I don't know how many there are actually, it's quite difficult to find out. However, I mean, the Mail is there saying that, there was no clear winner. I mean, I personally think that Tom Tugendhat won on the performance alone. I mean, whether he is experienced enough or well known enough to become the ultimate leader, but I thought he was quite impressive last night. He showed a sense of humour. He seemed to be saying the right things. He was quite down to earth. Obviously, he served in the military. He praised the NHS for saving and his military colleagues when they came back from Afghanistan and Iraq. So, and he made a joke with someone who worked for the NHS about it, and also thank you for giving me my children, not you personally. And that got a laugh from the audience. So I think it was quite good. I thought, me personally, I thought Liz Truss was quite wooden. And the one thing, I know this sounds really shallow, but Liz Truss was dressed exactly how Margaret Thatcher used to dress as well, with the pussy bow blouse, is that what they're called? And so I thought she came across as wooden. I thought maybe that Rishi Sunak, I mean, I know this is going very shallow, Kimberly, but why wasn't he wearing a tie? I'm sorry, I don't want casual...
Said that. Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Tom, we want to hear what you think about the debate, so next hour we'll ask you, but we've got to take a break now. Dawn and Tom, we'll see you in an hour. Thanks both. Still to come here on Sky News Breakfast. Temperatures rise and the UK prepares to enter a state of national emergency.